The story comes out of northern Arizona at the Wheatfields Lake. I was taking a trip with my stepbrother Mikey and my younger sister Leslie. We didn't have any driver's license, but our parents didn't care, so we took off. We were having fun all day, just playing in the water, catching crawfish, and it started getting darker, so we decided to cook dinner. We just made hobo dinners, which is ground beef, onion, and the spices rolled up into an aluminum foil and tossed near the fire to cook. We ate it was good, and while we're just sitting out by the lake, talking, telling stories, we heard the sound of a cow dying. The weather grew colder as we listened to the dying of the cow. I also noticed that we were the only ones around the lake, and we were the only ones that were going to camp that night. We decided to call it a night. It was hot and dry that summer, so we extinguished a fire till it was nothing but mud. My sister and I, not being brave, we had our brother Mikey sleep at the opening of the tent. You see, our tent, well, the front door or the front opening flap was broken, so it didn't work. So we used a rain cover. I fell asleep early, and a few hours later, I was woken up by Leslie shaking me. She was asking me what time it was. The time was 5:30 in the morning. She looked frightened, and she was muttering to herself, the sun will be out soon. The sun will be out soon. And I drifted off back to sleep. The morning came, and I asked her. She said that her and Mikey were still awake and that they could hear a whistle echoing through the valley. The only thing that whistles through the valley are medicine people. So she told me that she knew it was a skinwalker. She also told me that her and Mikey were so scared that they didn't even want to talk. So they would kick each other on their toes to warn the other one if they were still awake. Time went on and the whistleblowing subsided. That's when she tried seeing if Mikey was still awake, but Mikey was fast asleep. She laid frightened, knowing that she was the only one awake during witching hour. Not too soon after that went through her mind, she heard footsteps walking on the dry pine needles in our camp. She heard the footsteps coming closer and closer to the opening of the tent. That's when she saw long, bony old fingers reaching through the broken flap, and it was coming towards her and Mikey. The hands caressed Mikey's chest and arms, then it pulled it back out. She said that she could hear whoever or whatever it was dig through the trash. Our trash was hoisted in the tree because we didn't want animals to get in it. Then she said she could hear it climb back down and go to the truck and dig through our coolers. That's also when she heard it start saying some sort of chanting words, and she saw the fire restart. Now remember, we drenched our campfire until it was nothing but mud, and we also didn't have extra wood. When I heard all of what had happened that night, I couldn't believe it, so I got up and opened the flap to see that the fire was ablaze. I also saw that in the tree, our trash was gently opened up and untied, and there were bits of trash on the ground outside. And to make it all come true, our coolers were still open and our food had been dug around in, but nothing was taken. That's when I believed my little sister was telling the truth. So if you ever find yourself on the Navajo reservation, beware. You might just have something find you.
when I first entered my school, I remember I got elected or I got picked to be a residential advisor. During my first spring semester, when I was moving into my room, we actually moved in a week earlier before other people did. I remember I went for a run and I came back late at night. I put on Dave Chappelle and I remember falling asleep. One at night, I heard this foot, like someone running on top of my room. And I get out and I go outside my room and I can hear it through the residential hall. I can hear someone running around. So I got on the phone and I called my other friend. He's a residential advisor. His name is Nate. I was like, Nate, come over. Someone's on my roof. And this time, it was out in the middle of nowhere. No one was around. It was just me and other residential advisors. And we decided to run around the building. As we ran around the building, there was no one. So that spooked us. And I made sure I slept with my lights on. And I made sure I had the lights on in the hallways, so no one was there. Another story of mine as being a residential advisor was a kid named Derek. He was drunk out of his mind and he was fighting everybody, and we decided to look for him. I remember I found him by the tree line at our school, and I remember him grabbing me. I remember I tossed him on the ground and he took off running into the woods. Now I wasn't going to chase him, and I went back and I told my friend Nate that he's out there running around drunk. So we just let him sober up. We thought he was sober up. And we were busy college students working and going to school, and we decided to do our homework. So it was at 1 a.m. We were outside on a concrete wall, and I see a person hiding behind a small tree, like a bush, like a pinyon tree, and it was crouching. And I told my friend Nate, I was like, hey Nate, there's someone hiding, do you see him? And we figured it was Derek, but my friend Nate couldn't see him. And we had our other friend, she was smoking, and I made sure I changed into my running shoes to chase after him because I was wearing boots that day. I picked up a pebble and I slung and I threw it back and went right into that tree, and it took off running. What I noticed, it was like a black figure, like a black shadow. I mean, it was a person. So I started running. I ran after it, and I was catching it up to it, and I was leaping over these bushes, these yucca plants, these sagebrushes. It was jumping over, and I was just running through it, and I was running. I was going so fast, and it hit the highway. It made this weird like drumming noise like on the pavement. And then at that time I realized it wasn't Derek. This was the actual skinwalker, or a shapeshifter that is black, had no detail on its body. And I got up because I fell in a bush, and I ran back to my friend Nate. I was like, hey Nate, this is not Derek. This is somebody who practices witchcraft. That night at 2 a.m., we went back into our building, and soon and behold, Derek showed up. And he was drunk. He tried to grab me again, but my friend grabbed Derek and pushed him against the wall. And that was one of my recent encounters at the school.